Hello, welcome back to We Prepare and some of the tools we've been working on here. We appreciate you joining us as always. And in this segment, we'll talk about our SitRep Toolkit. Again, we'll be in the multi-jurisdiction version, but like the others, this applies equally to either the single or the multi. What we'll be talking about here in this video is really some of the other tools that you can utilize in that first operational period to kind of get you stood up and moving. And so, as always, right, you guys are familiar with this by now, right? Data entry, contact info, all these green tabs are what you populate, and that would be, again, kind of that first step. Once that first part is done, we've got a few tools here that you might find useful. As a reminder, you can scroll down on the welcome and instructions to get to any of these, or you can just click the little hamburger button here, scroll down and get to them, or roll your mouse wheel, scroll down to get to them this way as well. So lots of ways to get over here, but the ones we wanted to talk about briefly tonight are some of these light blue ones that again provide some useful value. You wouldn't necessarily use them all the time. You might not use them at all, but they're here in case you need them. So as a reminder, any of these that have that little kind of orange triangle in the corner gives you a reminder of what's going on. You can do the little show more blowout button to again give you a sense of our thought process in putting these tools or including these tools in the process. So with that said, you can see there's a half a dozen or so we'll be going over here, maybe 10. And a couple of these are ones that may be useful. All of them do the Control P print, right, where they pop out and give you a little note taker. And if you need, you can do the set the custom page breaks if you don't like the pagination, what's going on, right? So for example here, maybe drag that one up, drag this one down, so on and so forth. So anywho, what this one does is, as an AA, right, the agency administrator, if you're taking over a fire, if you're the incident management team or potentially an EOC supporting, you could go to that first briefing, and this gives you some ideas on what you might want to ask, sort of a facilitated agenda that you can work with that AA or that elected official on to kind of get a sense of what you're taking over. All sorts of questions in here to sort of spur you on that you may need to reference back. It's designed around being able to break out, kind of like the 201 in ICS is, where again we may after we've captured this, copy this, send it back to our plans chief, right? Copy this, send it back to our ops people, or have again the top stuff kind of filled out, but then again share with our permissions here, right? Protect sheet, right? Add emails, that kind of stuff to those CNG type members and have them actually populate it as they're going. All the other members on the team could see it. They would have view access to this if we locked it down, but not necessarily edit access. And so you can again populate it in the interview style or yeah, again in that shadow day or whatever the case may be. A few other ones in here, incident complexity indicators. This just gives you a thought process, right? And we'll get some of this cleaned up with the references here. Those are going to weird places, but again, this might be something to print, put on the wall as a reminder that if you start getting into some of this, you may need to start considering requesting a team. So often we get in that Groundhog Day, and by the time we're ready to exceed some of these capacities, we're in zombie mode and we may not be thinking clearly. So this is just another reminder to help us figure that out. There's a couple of complexity analysis tools in here. You can use them or not. You can, again, if you're not using them, clean up your tool by hiding or deleting the sheet. But you can see we can come in here and change them, the color code, right? So again, you can ask the questions. You can add some sample notes over here. They tally up as you go. And so when we get to this and we're seeing yeses, right, and we're getting into that level of complexity, we can consider starting to make an order, right? Print them, sign them, they become part of the documentation package, and you're good to go. Similar, right, with Coast Guard, different kind of questions that you might ask and answer. Gives you a little bit more. You can also put in some agencies involved if you need. Complexity analysis, all hazard, right, same kind of idea, except on this one you can give it some weighting factors, right? You can make it some of these factors more or less heavy, And then again, if you get down here and you get to a percentage that you're thinking of, maybe we make that order. So those three can be utilized or not in conjunction with your EOC or your incident management team to kind of start getting your head around how big is big and how bad is bad, magnitude and whatnot. If you decide you're going to order a team, we borrowed this from our wildland fire brothers and sisters. So you can see it's fairly wildland centric, right, with GACs and the NMAX and all that. But you can see how you might be able to, again, kind of articulate what's going on here if you're on the hazard side or whatever else. This just helps you kind of walk through why you would be looking at bringing in a team. And so it may just help you get to your commissioners or your electeds or your governor and kind of articulate your case a little bit better. Similarly, right, these 232 and 232 alpha get us into listing out what may be going on. So you can see it gives us an idea where we can put in some of the different things that might bring some complexity to our situation. And so by listing these out, right, we can then again get that over to operations and tell them, hey, don't drive your bulldozer over some of these sensitive areas, but also maybe use that as justification that we need some specific resources or whatnot. Site index is sort of similar, right? This is where we could list in various sites that again help provide our kind of common operating picture, and again printable into the big board. Again, we'll clean up these reference cells for the final version, but you get the idea here. That might be something useful on an EOC wall that when folks are thinking about what's going on, you can see at a glance what's out there. A couple of these tools are designed here, again, to be printables, not necessarily for the big board, but potentially, right, if they kind of list some of this out. Certainly, we would recommend that you have your own delegation of authority template and disaster declaration template that have been pre-reviewed by attorneys. You can see we put some of those notes in here. But if that's not the case and you need to get something up, this will get you going in a pinch. The orange is what is you need to kind of populate. And so some of these, right, so county name, we'll put Bob County. You can see Bob County populates everywhere else, right? So we'll put that back. But we try to make it as easy as possible for you to kind of tell the story of what is going on there. Print it, sign it, get it going to at least get that thing moving. Similar with the disaster declaration. Hopefully, again, you've got something else going on, but if not, we can kind of quickly and easily put something together to at least get the party started with extra resources coming. And then last but not least, in this particular blue section, we have what's called management action points or trigger points. And this is a pretty robust tool. You wouldn't need to go to nearly this extent. You could just list out on a kind of blank piece of paper that if the floodwaters raise to this level, here's our pre-scripted action. Or if the wildland fire hits this trigger point or this map, this management action point, we have a discussion if we're going to call an evacuation or whatever the case may be. But you can see if you were using this full thing, you could have multiple maps, right? And we would put in what are the conditions. So describe it, describe the values at risk that are in that particular area. Trigger conditions, right? Fire reaches the south side of Highway 287. That would be what our trigger condition would be. We can kind of reach through then and give some actions, right? You can see this section spells that out. And so upon reaching this thing, we will issue a code red. There'll be, some considerations that, hey, this area has a unique population that may take a little bit longer or need more resources. We could list that in here to, again, think through. So if you go into real-time mode, you're not trying to work through all this in the moment where you have the consequences of time pressure and potentially consequence pressure leaning over your shoulder. Resources in here, right? So map implementation, if this is an evacuation kind of geared one, we may need a bus and a law enforcement presence and whatever else it may be include. And we may need some IMT support, right? We may need to assign a branch tactical planner, or we may need to assign a extra branch or division or group or something. We can put it in status of what's going on, right? Activated date, deactivated date, if necessary. Why did we pull that trigger? And any notes. From there, right, certainly you can reflect these on the maps. If you recall back in a previous episode, we have these map templates ready, these map tools, and so you could come in here, right, and kind of incorporate your maps on the map, if you will. So let's just go here, let's insert, right, a drawing, and we will just put in a line, and we'll just make the line kind of fancy. You can see we can make it thicker or thinner. We can change the color. Let's make it that. We'll put a little text box on here, right? And we'll just call this map 1. Save it and close it. Yep, we're going to edit that. And here is map 1, right? Our map's getting busy. So again, you might have to change the background or something else. But you can see how we could then marry this up and have our maps listed out, our management action points listed on a map. Print this, right, to PDF. And again, similarly, we could do the workbook. Shut off all these tabs, except for, let's say, our maps there, right? And you get the idea, right? We could go through, click all these off, leave the management action points on, hit apply, and it would then create the version where we would have the maps, and then the maps as in management action points all together. Staple that up, and you've got your for documentation, for agency administrator consideration, putting on the big wall, any of those sort of things that help us kind of, again, share that common operating picture and situational awareness. So with that, you guys get a good sense of what's going on with hopefully the tool. As a reminder, you can update, customize some of this stuff throughout. Those base maps, right, get inserted here if you're using them. And then last but not least on this video, we wanted to touch very briefly on the other couple of printables here that, again, help us bring situational awareness. This is a planning P, right? Shouldn't be anything new to any of you all. But what it does is it pulls in off of our data entry tab, and you can see here forms, time, or location by color. And so, for example, in the tactics meeting, here are the forms we should be working on. Here's when we should be having it, and here's where it is. Printing that out and putting it on the wall in plotter size or whatever else the case may be, again, brings some of that situational awareness. And like we talked earlier, if you wanted, we could do a screenshot of this, right, or a capture tool, and then put that into one of our briefings for something like, let's say, data entry here. Maybe we put that in here under situation photo, right, if you think that's a meaningful way to tell part of your story. The other couple of these purplish tabs that we got going on are just versions of the 230 and 231. The 230, right, being a schedule. And again, it pulls in, you can change it from landscape to the portrait mode. Like I said, we'll clean up some of this bottom part here. We broke a link there. And I'll come back to that in just a second, but you can see how you can print these and put them out or share it, put it in the calendar invite or whatever. As a reminder, just in case you ever do break a link, right, it's just as simple as equals, and then go find where you want it to be. In this case, right, where's our contact info tab? We'll say our plans chief is responsible for this particular thing, and so let's put Speedy Gonzalez, and there he is, right? So that's how that would work if you do break a link. The 230 alternate is just another version, kind of a color version. Either one is appropriate. We've incorporated this as a PDF kind of picture and put it into our calendar invites for some of our meetings. But again, kind of tells a story, common operating picture all at once. And last but not least, this document is a meeting summary. Certainly you don't need to use this particular one, but we found it was useful in kind of standardizing the notes. And so assigning to whatever meeting, right, tactics, planning, any other meetings you have going on, you could then put in what is it, where is it, who facilitated it, who attended it, which may be something you need to go back and reference of who was there. And then again, summary of actions or anything else. Getting these sort of turned into the plans chief or the documentation unit leader really sort of tells that story, sort of that 214 unit log story as it relates to our meetings in particular. So with that, and as always, we do appreciate you joining us here at We Prepare, both on the website where we've got our tools located, weprepare.org, or on YouTube, where we've got these videos hosted and hopefully allow you to utilize them to become better, more efficient incident managers and emergency managers, whether you're in an incident command post or an emergency operations center. So with that, that sort of wraps up our series here on the SitRep Toolkit. We'll have some other stuff, I'm sure, as we get updates and farm them in, where we'll come back and visit this one. But in the meantime, and as always, do reach out to us. The creators here, myself, Spencer Pollock, Dr. Burkhart, Todd or Pat from the Blue Cell. We're always happy to, again, make stuff better, make new stuff, clean up errors that we've got inside tools or whatever it may be. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you subscribe, like, comment, share, etc. And we hopefully will see you on the next series where we'll talk about a new tool we're bringing out. So with that, as always, be safe, happy trails, and thanks for joining us. Take care.